back with us as we wait. NBC's Vaughn Hilliard still at the White House at his post, and former Republican Congressman Charlie Dent from Pennsylvania, thankfully here on set with me. Vaughn, I want to go back to the conversation that we were having just before the commercial break, because you're seeing the president just touting these major cuts in his joint address on Tuesday. But what do we know about why he seems to be reining in Musk, especially if he's willing to go before Congress and tout the work that Musk is working on?
Right, Ali, I think we're dealing with diametrically opposed statements coming from the president of the United States, who on one hand is urging Elon Musk to continue to go forward, and if cabinet secretaries and agency heads don't go forward with the necessary cuts, he will send Elon Musk in to do so. But then at the same time, he suggests that he wants a scalpel, not a hatchet, to be used in the federal government in terms of workforce reduction. But so far, it has been a hatchet, a cudgel. It's been a lot of things other than a scalpel that have been used in the first month and a half of this administration. And you are looking at tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of employees who have lost their jobs or on the cusp of being placed on administrative leave. And I think that this is where the consternation is not only here in the greater Washington, D.C. area, but 80% of the federal workforce are outside of this greater D.C. area here. And I know that you and myself, we have talked to federal workers from across the country who have seen the efforts of this administration and have been given no reason to believe that in the months ahead that they're going to go in any other direction other than to continue to cut because of the benchmarks that have been placed on the government going forward through budget negotiations about trying to cut down the amount of the annual federal budget, and they see the workforce reductions as a means to the end to get to that.
So, Charlie, we know that Republican lawmakers on Capitol Hill have been meeting with Musk. He was up there this week, meeting with the House, meeting with the Senate. They have aired some of their frustrations pretty kindly, I would say, in public, saying, well, I have concerns about the way that DOJ is going about this, or I'd like them to see, to be a little more careful in the way that they're cutting. These same Republicans, in some cases, are going home to their districts and seeing town halls where that frustration from constituents spills over. Is this really the tension point for Musk and the administration, what's happening at home and what's happening in the government?
Well, there's no question that Elon Musk and DOJ are causing a lot of heartburn and aggravation for Republican members of Congress.
Yeah.
Their phones are lighting up, largely because of DOJ and Elon Musk having access to their people's records at Treasury, and that is not a small thing. And of course, Elon Musk's own polling numbers are quite low, so he's become quite a liability. Now we're talking about a scalpel versus a hatchet. Mm-hmm. Well, how about a chainsaw and a wood chipper, which he's used those terms. So Elon Musk's and DOJ's indiscriminate way of firing people very cruelly and inhumanely in many cases is causing enormous problems. I mean, a lot of Americans say, yeah, if you want to do a reduction in force that's thoughtful and well-targeted, okay, they would accept that. But this is just so indiscriminate, and they're causing problems when they fire people who are in charge of the nuclear secrets, or people responsible for bird flu, or the guy who has the codes for the bathrooms at the national park. I mean, this is a problem.
Yeah, and I think the indiscriminate nature is the thing that some lawmakers and certainly constituents that I've spoken to have taken the most issue with. But you bring up the point that this is also about privacy concerns because they're in people's data in Social Security Administration and other places. I wonder if this smacks to you at all of the Tea Party wave that ended up sweeping the country back in 2014, just sort of the grassroots backlash. Could that be something that ultimately powers Democrats here? Is it too early to make that kind of a comparison?
Oh, no, I think there's a lot of energy out there. You saw it with these town hall meetings. What's happening now reminds me of 2017 during the Obamacare repeal replace debates. We had some really tense town hall meetings then that were well charged. Of course, during the Tea Party movement, when Obamacare was being enacted, huge sort of thing. And of course, you know, the party out of power is angry and energized. And their voters are the ones who are showing up, making the noise right now. So every Republican who's in any kind of a competitive situation going into 2026 knows that they are on the point of the spear, and they are at great risk politically, because Trump is not going to be on the ballot, but they will. And these voters are angry. They're going to take it out on somebody. They can't take it out on Trump.
I think that's an excellent point. And one of the things that could factor in, Vaughn, you and I know this so well, is we are once again on the precipice of a government shutdown. Next Friday is the deadline there. How concerned is the White House about that? I mean, Trump met with conservative members of the Freedom Caucus. I got to imagine that getting some of these guys who have never voted for a continuing resolution to do so this time was probably on that agenda.
Right. And we've heard very little publicly from the president in terms of any concern about the government shutting down. Of course, by and large, there's been some who have suggested that what he is actively seeking to do is shut down parts of the federal government, from USAID to the Department of Education. And there has been a lack of concern on the part of this administration about key components and infrastructure of the U.S. government coming to a close. And I think that that is where these conversations about the March 15th deadline are going to ever increase here over the next 7 days. Of course, on the House side, Republicans can't afford to lose more than one of their members on a potential deal to continue to fund the government here. And of course, this is all separate from the larger budget conversation and reconciliation package deal that will include ultimately the extension of the 2017 tax cuts, as well as immigration and energy spending here. So there is a lot on the plate at a time in which there is a great focus on not only the immediate impact of these tariffs on the economy, the stock market, Doge's efforts to cut. There's basic government spending that is going to have to be accounted for over here the course of the next week, let alone the major financial package that House and Senate Republicans are going to work to put on President Trump's desk in the months ahead, Allie.
Yeah, and Vaughn, I'm so glad that you separate out those two pieces, because although they all deal with how money flows through the government funding and keeping the lights on is a separate conversation from the reconciliation conversation, and both of them we're tracking quite closely. But at the same time, a week in Congress time is really an eternity. They've got the ability to avert this shutdown. The question is if they will.